Hey guys, it's Dan and Joe. We got the bad reputation theme in our head. Why is that?
Because I've been watching Freaks and Geeks.
Freaks and Geeks theme song, bad reputation. Joe and Jet and the Blackhearts. Great song, great theme.
It really sticks with you.
And it encapsulates the show.
Yeah, the energy.
The energy of the show. And it's released right around the time the show is set. So, perfect timing. Yeah. Great theme song. Now we're going to talk about the show.
Yes, the episode.
We're up to episode 3, which is called Tricks and Treats.
Halloween themed.
Halloween themed. They're not all something and something else. Because last week it was Beers and Weirs.
Yeah.
This one is Tricks and Treats. Some of them are like that, but not all of them. The next one will not be. So this is the spoilers. So this is the Halloween show. Did this air right on Halloween? October 30th.
Oh.
So there you go. And so now here in Central PA, they would have had Halloween already.
They always do that.
We do it the Thursday before.
Before.
Where I grew up in Philly, it was always Halloween night. So this would have been the night before trick-or-treating.
I always preferred, made more sense. I don't know why we do it the weird way we do here.
It's the dumbest thing I ever heard of. But that's a conversation for another time. But I don't understand why we do that. But so now we're up to the big Halloween episode. We're getting to know these characters a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about this episode.
Well, I know you like me to do the synopses a little bit. And, basically, as you kind of suggested, Lindsay's getting a little more into the freaks. Mm-hmm. And so she's kind of trying to prove that she can be cool by, kind of dipping out from her mother, who wants her to stay home and serve out the treats for the kids that are trick-or-treating. And she wants to say, I'm going to go off and be bad with the freaks and do bad things. And that's kind of one plot. Of course, the actual best part.
Your favorite plot, of course.
I'm sorry, but far,
the
geeks, Sam convinces Bill and Neil to go trick-or-treating, even though they think they're too old for it.
Right.
It's kind of a theme of the episode.
They were not going to originally.
They weren't. But then they wanted to impress...
but he still wanted to.
He still wanted to.
And figuring, well, it's my last year to do it probably, because they're in 9th grade at this point.
Yep, they're freshmen.
What year, what was the last year you went trick-or-treating?
I knew this was going to come up because this is interesting. And I know we said this could be a brief episode, but I think there's some interesting things going on. I was thinking a lot about this.
Listen, we can talk a lot about these episodes.
All right, Sam's whole dilemma this episode, one of the main themes of this one, is the whole thing about transition, which makes sense. You're a teenager, so it's like a lot of kids at this time might start thinking, I want to be treated like an adult, but I also want to be a kid. Right. You kind of want a little bit of both. And we see that in many different scenes in this episode. This whole episode is littered with that whole idea. Yeah. And it kind of culminates with a lesson about that as well, I think, a couple. And for me, thinking back about it, I'm like, wow, he's still wants to trick-or-treat, and they're kind of debating about what's too old, and the parents talk about he's still too old for that, and they're arguing about it. I thought I was too old for it, like when I was 12.
Okay.
I stopped in 5th grade, and I was thinking, wow,
You stopped in 5th grade?
Well, 5th grade. So yeah, I think that's the last time I went trick-or-treating.
No kidding.
I was an old...
That's young.
I always had to be mature. I thought when I was like 12, I'm too old for the kid stuff.
Wow.
That's...
not me.
When did you start?
Well, okay. The last year that I know for sure was 8th grade.
Okay.
Because I remember my friend Mike that I went trick-or-treating with was a Ninja Turtle. I don't remember what I was, but I remember that was 8th grade. But we were also young for our grade. First of all, he skipped a grade, so he should have been in 7th anyway.
Okay.
And my birthday was November, so they put me in early, but they could have, and whatever. I was supposed to probably be in the grade below anyway. So we both were only... let's see. His birthday was in August, mine's in November. So he was probably 13, I was probably 12 still.
Okay.
For another couple of months.
So actually you weren't that much
older. So shoot, I guess I was... You were 12 in 5th grade?
6th grade.
Oh.
No, yeah.
Okay.
I went to school like a year
older.
Know what? I was held back before I went in.
Oh, so you were held back?
So I was about a year older than a lot of the kids in my...
Okay, and I was a year younger than a lot of the kids in my...
some people
or the
older.
Younger end, I should say. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, so I guess we did end around the same age. But when you say 5th grade, I think, oh my God, that's so young.
It sounds young because a lot of, 10-year-olds are in 5th grade. I was like 11.
Maybe we were 13 and 14, not 12 and 13.
Still pretty young.
But that's still pretty young, I think.
That's around the time.
Yeah.
So these kids might be thinking, I'm too old for it. And it's an interesting discussion about, it actually kind of correlates well with the Disney movie we were talking about the elements of youth and growing up. And
actually, that's true. We're doing Peter Pan soon.
So it's like, I don't know, this episode had a lot to do with that theme. And
at the end, towards the end, when something happens to Sam that we'll talk about, and his mom's trying to care for him, he's like, I'm not your baby.
I'm not a baby. That comes up too. And do you want me to just spoil the
We do spoilers on this episode, that's fine.
Okay, but basically his plot, this whole episode was kind of a downer compared to the previous two in the sense that it had a lot of disappointing things happening. Like, it was basically everybody wants to have this Halloween. Their mom, who we see a lot more of in this episode. And
a lot of parents in this episode, which is great.
We get a lot of them, which was
a lot
good.
of
their personalities.
Their parents, anyway. Not all the parents.
Yes.
The weird parents.
The weird parents. And we got to see a lot of them, which was great. But basically, the mom's really into Halloween and is planning it. She's baking cookies. And, of course, they comment on the whole, oh, man, razor blades and you can't only have wrapped candy, which I know what
there's so many themes in this episode.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot.
Tackle.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So the mother is like, while reflecting, things are different. It's like less innocent, and she's really disappointed because not only is her daughter not there, her son's kind of being weird about his position, how old he is, and how he's supposed to act. Nobody's accepting her candy. All the parents are giving her the cold shoulder and making her feel bad. And the husband's like, oh man, so it's just that's her Halloween.
He jumps in. He jumps in with his own costume
to scare kids.
To unfortunately scare kids.
So, which is great. He overdoes it a little bit.
Overdoes it. That, by the way, is a callback.
Is it?
It's an inside joke, I guess. SCTV, of course, the show he came from with John Candy and Eugene Levy and all of that.
Cool.
He played a vampire in a recurring character.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So that was. I mean, it doesn't say that in the commentary, but to me, my dad was a big SCTV. As soon as he came out, the first time I saw that episode, I was like, oh my god, that's a great callback to SCTV. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, there you go. That's something I didn't know.
Yeah.
But I thought it was great. We got to see a lot of the parents, but really, Sam kind of wanted to have this good trick or treating experience, but those bullies come back again. But the biggest thing, the crux of this episode, which I really want to talk about is, okay.
Are you going to talk about Lindsay quick?
Yeah.
Okay, before we even get to there, one more thing about Sam, though, about his Halloween. He gets assigned Crime and Punishment.
I was going to talk about it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were done talking about Sam for the moment.
It's connected.
All right.
It's connected. Like I said, this is
layered.
This is a very complicated episode, and I wanted to make sure I had it all because, believe me.
Okay, it's coming up.
Okay,
all right.
Because this is the other theme, which is about morality and doing the right thing.
Yes.
Okay, and basically
Crime and Punishment.
And I'll come back to that because I got a plot twist for you.
Oh, good. Okay.
I got a plot twist for you.
Okay.
The thing about Lindsay is, of course, she is skirting the line between right and wrong.
Yes.
And the Freaks.
As she's been so far.
She has been, and and obviously thinking about what kind of person she wants to be, and in hanging out with the Freaks, she wants to go along and do what they do, and they start doing things, pranks, and honestly, vandalism. They break the counselor's pumpkin, which is a great gag where he's got another one.
He's got another one at the ready.
That's a shame, but he's got one ready. That was great.
Classic counselor.
They start.
We see him a couple times in this episode yet again. We see him at the beginning of the episode.
Great line.
Great gag.
I don't care if you hate me, if you graduate. I'm fine with that. Man.
Good guy.
Good start already. Yeah, I hope that he needs an episode.
He's a present figure. I don't know if does he get a full episode to himself?
More of him. So, he's such a good character.
He's such a good character.
But basically, she's skirting the line between right and wrong. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, there are nuances to these characters, and so I'm trying not to judge them. Kids make mistakes. People make mistakes. Yeah. The Freaks, I can't judge them.
Mailbox business.
But they're egging, we'll talk about. But when they get the baseball bats and destroying people's mailboxes, I'm like, this is some criminal, mean, bad stuff that she's getting involved with.
And I knew kids that did this.
And I had a few things I may have done when I was a teenager, but I was much more like the geeks.
I was much more like the geeks, but I didn't ever do the baseball bat bit.
No, that was too much. I'm thinking...
I did a couple of things that
but that's what I was trying to think. Like,
might appear in this episode that are not great.
Yes. Like, what kid doesn't do something that's skirting the lines a bit? That's part of growing up, I guess. But the point is, they're going too far.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they really are. And she is encouraged to egg, and they see these unsuspecting younger kids that are trick-or-treating.
Right.
Oh, egg them.
Who had already gotten beaten up
by the
you
bullies.
You mentioned that briefly, but the bullies from episode 1 return.
Again. With backup.
With backup, and of
sequel.
Course, the sequel. And then they're not in costume. These kids are in costume, and so that's even less mobility for them.
So they have their candy taken from them. Sam's Halloween's going completely wrong, and then he gets egged by Lindsay, by his sister. And when she realizes that, and like
neither of them know it at first.
At first, because they're laughing, and then she looks back and
realizes him, and then forces Daniel to back up.
And I have to say, like, just the whole, and that's why I say it leads to a potential downer for me, because like when he is hanging there with that sadness and kind of rage on his face, it's like, it's just I feel so bad for the kid, and Lindsay's like realization, because there's something really cool about this episode, I think a powerful moment that is really interesting coming back to Crime and Punishment.
Great.
She is kind of encouraged to do something bad because she's thinking about getting closer to Daniel, getting with these kids. Like, is this cool? I want to be cool. I guess this is what it means to be cool.
And she's getting static from Kim Kelly the whole time.
Oh,
so she really has to try and prove herself.
Oh, yeah, like, she's such a square. And I'm like, shut up.
But all right, well, I have some thoughts on that too.
I want to try and get all out.
Okay, I want you to get everything out.
And you please hold on to that.
What a show!
I'm telling you, you thought this will be a quick episode. I don't know, but basically that moment where it's like, okay, you can just egg some strangers, doesn't matter to you, but when you do it to somebody you care about, it's like, wow, it makes you realize that was a bad thing to do, and it just kind of forces me to really realize that.
Yeah,
I hurt my brother. It doesn't matter if it was someone else. I shouldn't have done it anyway.
Well, and what I love the most about her realization and the abject terror of that realization,
like, what have I done?
Isn't that she's worried she's going to get in trouble.
No.
Her initial thought, and she worries about that when she gets home.
I'm in so much trouble.
And thinking, oh my God, is he going to tell me? But her the number one thing of abject terror on her face is because, oh my God.
What am I doing?
What have I become? What did I do to my brother?
Like that's who
I love. Like
because their bond has been so established, they're so close. And like he'd be devastated. And you could see he's like that twisted. There's so many emotions going on.
Right.
And that young actor, does such a good job selling that complicated rage and misery of that moment. Like to feel betrayed by like, oh man.
Yeah.
And she feels so bad. Like she does such a great job.
She feels horrible.
She's so terrible, and rightly so. And also, there's so much about the dynamics of the freaks, too, because I was studying them a bit more this episode to see how they relate to each other.
Right. Rogan's one-liners.
Rogan's one-liners are still there. Not as funny ones this time, but there were a few.
Yeah.
But they're all kind of egging her on, so to speak. Except for Jason Segel.
Except for Nick, yeah.
Which Nick I wanted to bring up a lot, because Nick... Basically, before they're setting this up, she said she wants to go on as a double date. Seth Rogen coming along ruins that. They're the regular freaks. And all the time, the little moments where she's suggesting, oh, we can see the haunted house.
See a movie. We can see Friday the 13th.
And Kim Kelly's like, that's so lame. Why would you want to do that? And he's like, no, that sounds great. He wants a normal thing.
He wants a normal thing with her,
because he doesn't want her to do this.
Right.
He wants to just date her because she likes her. And he's like, I want to have I don't want to do what we're doing now.
Yeah, I feel like to Nick, she doesn't necessarily have to be one of the freaks.
No, he just likes her.
He just likes her.
And it's like, he's like, oh, if you want to hang out with this, but he wants something more normal, nicer. It doesn't want her to get involved in this. And I thought that was great.
Mm-hmm.
And Daniel, it's interesting about him is that he clearly is more neutral about it. Like, he's like, leave her alone. Whatever, don't make fun of her.
I don't think he cares about much of anything.
But he's like, it's fine. Like, he's so neutral about it.
Yeah.
He doesn't, but the thing that annoyed me is he's the leader of the group. Really?
Yeah.
He could change all this, and he doesn't care.
Well,
He doesn't care.
He is the leader of the group, but
he moves with the
who's the Yoko in his ear?
Yeah,
is Kim
pushing him, and I'm like, he could. It's just.
I mean, look at the very first scene, or maybe it's not the first scene, but the bus stop scene early in the episode,
bus stop,
where the girl has the Lick-a-Maid candy.
Yeah,
and
just thanks for the candy.
Daniel and Kim roll up.
It's a good scene.
And she is sweet as pie, and do you want some candy? Whatever.
Why would I want?
And like Kim Kelly's a big B to her.
Why do you eat it?
And Daniel's just like
okay. Like he's just kind of like whatever.
Yeah.
Which I get that's the appeal of the character, but it's also why it's a problem. And it's interesting, of course, as a teenager would be. Lindsay's interested in him.
But that dynamic is so classic, very real.
So bad.
But that's what makes Kim Kelly's character so important. Mm-hmm. Because even though Daniel's the leader of the group,
she's really
of course he's not. She is the leader.
She's pushing things. Oh, I get that.
Through him.
Yeah.
And in the next episode, Kim Kelly is my friend. We really explore the relationship of Kim and Lindsay.
I'm glad you bring that up, and I know you said that, and I'm like, but I'll be honest with you. After this episode, so far this episode, I see the Freaks as antagonists.
Okay.
I don't like them right now. The fact that they were laughing about it, laughing at the fact she did to her brother and encouraging that, I was like, no, don't hang out with these people. That's my reaction. Yeah. Emotionally, I'm like, Jason Segel's kind of okay, but he's still not making any changes. I'm just like, whatever. So that's my feeling right now.
Okay.
I know that maybe it changes, but right now I don't like.
No, that's
characters.
Fine. You don't.
I don't.
Not
like
even
them.
Nick. Jason
no, as I said, Jason.
You like him.
Nick's fine, but he's not.
But then you're like mad that he doesn't do anything.
He's not doing enough. Like he's like, okay, fine. He's not pushing. You know what I mean? Like he still wants to be part of the group, so it's believable. But I'm frustrated.
All right. So also
Seth Rogen wasn't funny this time. He was just a jerk.
I don't.
He was a jerk this episode.
Was he?
When he was laughing at her doing I'm sorry. I didn't have, with the throwing. Everybody was laughing about that. That was the moment.
All right, what did you do when you were a kid? Don't say it, but I mean, when you did bad things as a kid, right?
Sure.
No, and granted, you were in the geeks part,
not
the freaks
so,
part, but
more so, yeah.
I mean,
I guess. I'm saying
kids are egging each other on, and laughing. This is what you do.
I did say, this is what people do. I did say that they were kids. I didn't say that it was right.
Kids. No, they're definitely kids. But I wonder. It seems to me, anyway, that Daniel's the only one with a car. And so they have to do whatever the deal
wants to do.
And if that means, and really whatever Kim wants to do. So if that means driving around all night with no agenda, which seems to be what they were doing, and the egging and all of that, rather than, Lindsay and Nick. Now, personally, might it have been not better for the story, but certainly better for some of the characters. If Nick and Lindsay actually went off and did the movie, but see, they don't want to be alone yet because she wants to be with Daniel more than anything, more than Nick at this point in time.
Yeah, and all right. So
if Nick was like, "Oh, let's go to a haunted house," just you and I, and let these guys do whatever they want to do, what would she have done? Probably said, no, that's fine. Because she so wants to be in with this Daniel group.
Yeah, and I'd imagine, would she be uncomfortable about, the touching last episode, too? Do they ever, call back on those things?
No, I don't think so.
Are they going to call back on the egg thing? Because, this is the thing I wanted to ask Dan, is if she continues to go right with the Freaks with no second thoughts next episode, I will be mad. You got to at least acknowledge that big event that happened the previous episode.
Well, they definitely acknowledged it in this episode. Okay. I mean, do they reference this specific egg incident? I don't know.
No, I mean, not the specific egg incident.
But the entire series is based upon her juxtaposition of the Freaks with her family. Yeah. So I mean, it's a constant.
Okay.
Whether or not the eggs come up specifically, I don't know.
But I don't care about the eggs. Yeah. What I mean is, for something this big to happen this episode, if the next episode
carry over,
if it doesn't carry it over at all, I'll be a little disappointed.
Okay.
I think thematically it should. Okay. That way, maybe she'll obviously get drawn in again, but maybe she'll.
How about that scene at the end of the episode?
Where she gets in the costume again?
I'm sorry, before that, when she goes and visits Sam's room.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's some closure.
I mean, that was an intense scene.
It was intense.
His sheer
venom,
But more than venom, the hurt.
The hurt. He was hurt, man.
He was hurt. Yeah, he was pissed, but he was hurt.
But he didn't sell her out, though.
No, he didn't sell her out.
Which was pretty cool.
Did you think he was going to?
No.
Why not?
Because he loves his sister, and maybe he thought it was a mistake.
I have another theory.
You think he's going to get back at her?
No, and I think he knows it's a mistake. And he knew that she didn't think it was him on purpose. But no, I think that because of what you said earlier about the theme of the episode,
growing up,
I think he felt like, you know what, babies tell on people, babies snitch. I'm not gonna, I'm gonna be a big man and just take it on the chin here and whatever. That was always my theory of why he didn't tell on her.
That's probably a good theory. Now, this is the thing. I don't know if it's necessarily the best thing to do.
It might not be.
I mean, and that's fine. It's a realistic thing for a
Although
teenage
she
boy.
clearly feels horrible.
She does.
She feels bad enough that she went into this costume, and it wasn't even the right costume that the mom got.
She's a prince, not a princess.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a princess costume.
I thought she looked good in it. It was cute.
She actually looked pretty good.
That was like we're doing our Shakespearean reversal.
Yeah,
thing.
she looked pretty good in it. But I think that sort of ending to the episode with her and the mom and
the dad too.
I mean, it was really though more about her and the mom, certainly. But
the thing is, even though I could see that as being like a realistic way for the kid to deal with it, like I should just be tougher and not tell on her. I thought it was very interesting that we are seeing the signs of her parents are worried about her changing, and her dad, in a very closed off kind of way, is upset about things, but he's not really voicing it directly. Like, you were on thin ice with not being here, like you're upsetting your mom. We should be watching for your brother, and I think that this is sitting with her a little bit.
Oh yeah,
and I like the fact that we got to see. Remember how I was like, oh man, we were learn more about the mom and the dad, and like we got a lot more of them in this episode.
A lot. Well, yeah, I told you we get more of them. But I think that's another reason I maybe would have liked a little closing scene in the last episode where the parents come home. I mean, it would be a little more conventional, like we talked about. But I think, I don't know, and maybe they wouldn't have known she had a party because then she would have been grounded and all this stuff, and we don't need to see that. But I don't know. What was there some remorse in that episode? I don't think really there was. I mean, things got out of hand.
I think it was like, it's over.
But Sam saved the day. The cops, got called. Everybody left. Everybody was fine. Sam was the hero of the episode. We know that.
The hero of the show so far.
All right.
To be honest.
But yeah, so I that's one more reason why I wish we got a little closure in that last episode.
We got more in this.
So we definitely got more closure in this episode. Yeah.
Plot twist time.
Okay.
The other layer, which feeds directly into her struggle.
Because there's a whole bunch of stuff we haven't talked about.
Yeah, about doing the right and wrong thing, whether or not to tell on my sister or not. Crime and punishment, which they clearly drop and talk about the themes like for no reason, and then weave it back in. It's actually one of my favorite books.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite classic ones. I read it back in college. It was one of those requirement ones. So I don't know if I would have gravitated to it, but I love the classic stuff. And can I tell you a little bit about Crime and Punishment? Since
yes.
Because I want to hear your interpretation about the episode and how it relates.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
As somebody new to it. So,
yeah.
Classic Crime and Punishment. They kind of spell out the themes in the episode when the teacher's like, you can't do the novelization of Star Wars or the best of Samuel
Davis. I was going to say, how about and they talked about the Al Jaffe from Mad Magazine.
This is unacceptable. I'm like, these would be awesome book reports. But we got to read Crime and Punishment, which I was thinking. I read this in college. This is pretty heavy for ninth grade.
Stuff. Yeah, heavy stuff.
This is dense. So I mean, not unreadable.
Also, by the way,
I was like, that's heavy, man.
I understand some of her concerns, the novelization of Star Wars, but the Sammy Davis Jr. autobiography, that seems like
it's not classic
normal
literature.
Book. No, I understand that.
We're done with the classes. But
all right.
Anyway, the thing is this: the book is about this Russian academic guy who just kind of thinks that he's sort of above morality. He can make decisions about who can die and who can. He wants to experiment. And he's living in this crappy apartment, and there's this landlady who's really mean, bitter. She's a terrible person. Nobody likes her, overcharging him rent or something, and nobody likes her in the building.
Okay.
I'm going to kill her. Murders her brutally.
Okay. There's the crime.
The crime. But what do you think his punishment is?
His guilty conscience.
He actually feels bad about it. He's like, wait, what? Well, how do I feel bad about it? And so the rest of the novel is him wrestling with it, and meanwhile the police are kind of on his tail.
All right, so that's literally like a classic. That's like
the
Telltale Heart.
Yes, like, same sort of thing.
Okay.
So think about it. That's the theme.
Very interesting.
And I was like, well, that's pretty heavy.
That's
so
Lindsay's
conscience,
yeah.
I think, and I think that's kind of what this episode is playing with. Is, it's like I said, that idea of, okay, I can just do this to get what I want, and for sake of my morality, I can just be bad and egg random people. But then I see, wow, somebody I care about close to, this was bad. I probably shouldn't have done it to anybody anyway.
For several people, though, because it was bad for her mom, too.
Mm-hmm.
Her mom, like you said, had a terrible Halloween, partially because she left.
And it's like her choices affected people more directly than maybe she thought. And I think that's a powerful message.
Maybe more directly than they had previously, because it seems like before the pilot episode of this show, and before the grandmother died, she was a different person. She was a good girl, and straight A's, and we see that. I like the word juxtaposition, I guess, but we see that juxtaposition with the friend at the bus stop with the lick-a-maid.
Yes,
that used to be her best friend, and now they're still sort of friendly, but they're not really friends in the same way.
No, because she's kind of going through a transition and sort of rediscovering
through
herself.
her, we see how Lindsay and who Lindsay used to be.
A lot more like that. Which is interesting, though, because she's separate, too, because remember that insecurity, she finds out she has a secret boyfriend, and Lindsay doesn't.
That's right. That was a good episode. Nugget. I forgot that.
That was a good nugget. See, I remember. I was paying attention.
Very good.
I told you, there's a lot.
We see the secret boyfriend, a little older he looked, too.
I was like...
And I think that
And he looked more like... He didn't look a really geeky kid.
I think that's part of the jealousy.
Like, what?
Is that, like
she's like...
he's older, like maybe Daniel.
You're getting you're like the geeky, like, prude.
Yeah.
How are you? You're kind of not like,
pretty great, right?
Like, and you know what? It proved that character was not as two-dimensional as she first appeared.
Yes, very true.
I like that. We haven't even talked about the best part yet, but I'll let you talk.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the geeks part.
No, you know that. I'm saving my favorite part for this.
Okay, but in terms of Crime and Punishment, that is very interesting.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I think it was the perfect choice for the episode.
I was just like, did Dan know? I was thinking,
I didn't know.
Because there's so much stuff I loved in this
I didn't
episode.
know. I will say that it was not chosen at random for several reasons, because there are people on the show that had to read Crime and Punishment in 9th grade.
Of course.
Wow. And I forget.
It's heavy.
There's only one commentary for this episode, and it was the three geeks, and I think Paul Feig was the other person. I think it was Paul Feig that was like, I had to read this.
I'm putting in
so maybe it was chosen for several reasons, and because he had to read it, he's familiar with the material, and so he put those morals and themes in here. I didn't realize that was the theme of Crime and Punishment.
Oh yeah, that's why I want to let you know.
I just kind of thought, well, that's a heavy book for a 9th grader to read. Holy God! But especially on Halloween weekend, whatever.
But they chose it on purpose for the themes.
Obviously,
there's some really
and drew right from it
directly in a lot of ways.
And so the very last scene. And they talked about this in the commentary too, is a bit open to interpretation.
I wanted to ask you about that. Because I was like, I watched that twice. I watched it twice. Because I was like, this seems like an important scene, but I have no idea what they're trying to say.
Here's what's interesting.
It's like a non-conversation.
They were split on the commentary track too. About how Sam was feeling in that final scene.
All right.
Isn't that interesting?
Because the dad's like, okay, how you doing? Doing okay? Well, I'm just reading a book for school. Oh, Crime and Punishment? How do you like it so far? I don't really know yet. It's kind of long and there's difficult names. Okay, have a good night.
Yeah, have a good night.
And I'm like, that's a weird little exchange. It felt like significant.
What did you think of the look on his face, though, on Sam's face, as the father leaves and he settles in with the book? Because it's.
I thought it was like
not of.
Disgust.
It's not of disgust, and it's not of happiness. Let's dive into this book.
It's like, I'll read the book. I thought he was actually getting interested in it.
Okay,
like slowly. Like it might take a while, but maybe I'll figure this out.
That's what a couple of the guys on the commentary said.
That
they thought he was sort of getting into the subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the commentary and my interpretation of it always was that he is sort of accepting his fate of, well, this night is like the end of my childhood.
So I'm gonna start focusing on reading this.
I may as well read this book. This is what adults do,
They read heavy stuff like this.
They read heavy stuff like this before bed, whatever. And it was sort of, yeah.
You know what? I think it could easily be both.
I think it could be both. Well, and I think that's why they left it sort of ambiguous like that.
That's good.
Yeah.
But it's not the best. It's not the best.
All right.
Because, Dan, look, this is...
I know, we'll get to the geeks.
You still got... Okay.
I don't know, I think there's other things to discuss.
Okay.
Let's discuss the Halloween candy. The cookie bit. So we see our friend from the first and second episode. I think your favorite recurring character, other than the guidance counselor.
You were like, he doesn't show up, but he's been in every episode so far.
No, I say he shows up, but
I like that.
He's not like a main, but
he's like the fourth wheel.
He's kind of like the fourth wheel. He's the fourth member of the gang.
He's the guy that's a friend, but he's like a little on the outside.
So he's
cool though.
He's very cool. He's a little bit. I think he's a future.
I love that
freak. Guy. I feel like he is.
He's like Lindsay. He's kind of in the middle.
Sort of. Yeah, I don't think he's in the middle yet, because he's certainly all geek now.
At the moment.
But he's definitely wise beyond his years. He also has the intel. He's got his ear to the ground.
All right.
I always imagined him being like the Daniel in 2 years.
You think so?
That's what I always kind of thought, yeah.
I think I like him better than Daniel, but it's hard to say.
All right. People change, though.
They do. That's what the show's about.
That's what the show's about.
He did give me one of my favorite laughs.
Oh, okay.
The dad's reaction to his costume. The hell is that? I'm a guy with a knife in my head. Oh, well, mission accomplished.
Yeah. That was a great line. Okay, so let's talk about that for a second, because he is the one who sort of tells the kids about
the conspiracy.
The poop. Yeah, they're going to give you
poop, chocolate covered poop.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to give you stuff to make you go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
This poison.
The razor blades, all that stuff, and then at the end of the scene, he's like, I kind of want to go with you guys. But you know what I thought was interesting is that the little bitty political joke that they put in there too, about how the people that are doing it are angry about Reagan.
Reagan
want to
ruin the
election. I thought that was
interesting.
Very interesting.
I was like, there's a history to that.
Seeing as how it takes place 40 years ago, but it was written even more than 20 years ago, and that's still something about the election and trying to
manipulate,
play with it,
get people afraid of what Reagan supports.
So I thought that was very interesting.
I would look that up in the comments. What were they talking about? What was going on in the election about trick or treating? That was
because I always heard the razor blade bit.
I heard about that as a kid,
and that's what's so funny about Sam saying that to Lindsay and her being like, "That's been around forever. That's a myth." So,
but the kids are all like, "What?"
Right,
definitely.
The first time you heard that, weren't you just like, "Oh my god"?
Oh, as a kid, I'm like, "I don't want to eat an apple."
Yeah,
razor blade and an apple.
So she's giving out cookies.
Go make cookies.
God bless her.
I want to eat them.
And finally, one of the moms has the heart to tell her, what are you doing? They're throwing these cookies on the lawn. All these kids have been trained to not take unwrapped candy from people. What are you doing?
What are you talking?
And she's just like, I would never do that. Yeah, she was like,
I would never do
anything like that.
How would you think I'd do that?
Yeah.
Because that's what people are being more afraid of each other.
Right. And I think that in itself is interesting too, because it shows not only the change in the kids, but in the adults. And she even says things have changed a lot since the Halloweens of my youth or whatever.
Yeah, but there was an even better part about that line I wanted to bring
up,
because it was a nugget. There's obviously things have changed even as you get older,
right?
And teenager experiences, adult experiences, they can kind of relate. She says, "What, people didn't throw eggs, back when you were a kid?" And she's like, "Well, I guess they did, but nobody that I knew.
Right.
My mom didn't hang out with those sort of people. What kind of people am I hanging out with?" I was just damn, that's a subtle get her to think again.
Interesting.
I was like, that is such a good little exchange.
Yeah, that really is. Good one, Joe.
The mom was killing it.
What a show.
You
love it. You love it.
This episode was really smart, man.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as funny as the previous two.
Okay, well, we haven't talked about, I think, all the funniest parts.
That's true.
Let's talk about the geeks.
Look.
Joe's favorite part. All right, now listen. You've talked a lot about all of the freaks, right?
I have, actually.
You have.
Yeah.
So before you go into how much you love the Geeks,
okay,
let's just share a few things about the Geeks in this episode.
Please.
Because number one was your favorite part Sam's costume? The character from the day
The Earth
Stood Still. One of your favorite movies.
This is why I think he picked this show, because you know me, so I was like. I'm like,
I forgot specifically that was the costume.
Like the moment that came up, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be Gort, like from the Day of the Earth. Still like, oh, the movie The Day of the Earth, and I was like, oh, that's so awesome. And also a little nugget, I love looking at his room, Battlestar Galactica 70s poster.
Yes.
I want that poster.
By the way, something that when we went off air last week, we had mentioned the Steve Martin poster.
The Steve Martin poster.
We never got to talk about that.
It was signed.
Last week, it was sort of a fixture in the room. We see it again briefly this week.
In the background.
It is a signed poster of Steve Martin. And here's the rub about that.
Okay.
It was not signed by Steve Martin. It apparently came as a fold-out poster in the record.
Oh.
They talked about that one in the commentary last week. With the signature imprinted on it.
That's
okay. Yeah. So
like how would he have got
that's
that?
why a kid
has
in the 80s would have that poster in his room autographed.
But yes, him as the Gort.
But him as Gort.
But also the fact they don't think it's Gort because it's bad, so they think he's the Tin Man. You look like Tin Man.
So here's before we get to your love of the Geeks, let's just talk about the humor.
He's tired of it. He's tired of it.
No.
They're the funniest.
I always want to hear from you about it, but
okay.
But I want to talk about the humor of the episode because you said Seth Rogen wasn't funny in this episode.
No, that's fine.
But there was. Most of the humor came from the geek side.
True.
Although the counselor and the pumpkin was very funny.
That was good.
Some of the bits we already talked about. The mission accomplished was great.
But like from the freaks themselves. You know what I'm saying?
From the freaks themselves, yes. But so we see a lot of humor with the geek going door to door.
Yes.
We see one lady in particular very angry because they're too old to be trick-or-treating.
Hammering that home.
And that is a real letdown for the kids.
Like, okay.
And when they first go out and all the other kids that are like 6 and 8 are looking at them.
And making them feel
like, what do we, like, dude, you're, because, to a 6-year-old, Martin Starr is tall. Like, maybe not Sam, but like, Bill is a tall dude. In fact, in the commentary, they actually asked him if he could maybe not work out so much because he's sleeveless when he's getting into his Bionic Woman dress, and you can kind of see his like muscly frame. And so apparently the directors were like, "Listen, if you don't stop working out, we gotta
cut you off the show, man.
Kick you out. Just we gotta not have see your bare arms." So he had never seen Bionic Woman before in his life. And that whole scene was basically improvised.
Was it?
They told him certain things to say.
Bionic Woman.
And there's like a 5-minute long take of that scene of him like saying all these different things in the phone.
I'm gonna listen to my Bionic ear.
They love the long takes of Bill that they cut out. We get about 40 seconds of it.
That's the best part.
But there's 5 minutes on the DVDs. Tell me.
He steals the show every time.
I know.
Like, Bill is... I wasn't like, he seems like he's going to be the least funny. He's great.
He's the funniest.
He's hilarious.
He's the funniest on the show, for sure.
Like, the whole Bionic...
well, I like the dad, too, but in terms of the kids, like, he's the funniest.
The Bionic Woman thing was just fantastic. Like, I was just like...
His reactions to things are just so funny because they're so true from
like nervous.
From what my friends how my friends would have reacted. Sort of muttering things under their breath.
Insecure kind of
insecure, yet not insecure enough to not be the Bionic Woman.
It's like he's not in a weird way he doesn't
think about it.
It's like it's
he doesn't even think about
naive.
It's like Dallas last week.
There's an innocence. Yeah. It's like what Mark sucks.
What?
Everybody's like Groucho.
Oh yeah, Groucho. Oh right.
There goes Groucho Marx. Groucho Marx sucks.
And then he mutters under his breath, Groucho Marx sucks.
but like honestly, the Bionic Woman thing was just everything about it was great. And you know what? He looked like a very convincing woman.
He looked like a very convincing Bionic Woman.
Very pretty woman. I was like the makeup on. Seriously, I was like, wow. They did
what a costume.
What costume of the year.
Yep.
And Neil's great too.
Yeah,
Groucho Marx versus Hitler.
Groucho Marx versus Hitler.
I just keep seeing
always great. And we see that again 10 years later in The Office when Jenna Fisher goes as...
Charlie Chaplin.
She went as Charlie Chaplin, and it was like Charlie Chaplin versus Hitler. She's like, I take the hat off,
take the hat off, I'm Hitler.
You know. But yeah, so there were your funny bits.
Those were great.
From the Geeks. All right, so let's talk about your love for the Geeks.
They're great.
Classics all.
Well, like, I mean, we pretty much just said it.
Okay.
Like, the whole trick-or-treat thing with them, their reaction to things, their other friend with the knife through the head.
Yes.
Like,
what a guy.
Yeah, Bill, MVP, again, and Neil had some good lines, too. Like, they're just great.
What did you think about the opening scene before the credits where they're making the gross out shake for Bill to drink?
Oh, that was also great because I was thinking that's probably what they were going to do. All right, that's actually another good one because I thought that was another stupid, believable thing that kids do.
Yeah.
They did that like all the time, making drinks in the lunch.
So they had to...
I almost...
Tell me.
It was disgusting.
Did you almost puke?
Not puke, but it made me think about it like, I don't want to think about it or I will get
sick. All right, let me tell you what he actually drank.
To think, it was pretty good.
Slim Fast chocolate shake.
Oh, yeah.
With bits of cookie and... What was the other thing he said? I forgot.
Some dark stuff.
Bits of cookie and maybe chocolate chips or something.
I want that.
For the thing, for him to like actually like have something to chew on when he drank
it. For the pickle bits or whatever.
Yeah, so that's what that was. But that scene was added on because they were a few minutes short on the episode, which usually they have the opposite problem. There's tons of cutscenes. Okay. But they had a 2-minute scene where Lindsay was kind of looking at herself in the mirror and determining like mentally which was her best angle, what made her look sexy, kind of thing, to get ready for this night of going out.
Were the
for the guys.
Studio's nervous about it?
No, they didn't really say, but just the producers kind of took it out, I think, because
we need more funny.
Well, maybe that was it. I don't know. They didn't really say either way, but they were like,
so.
we took that scene out, and so we needed something else for about 2 minutes in its place, and so we came up with this great idea of the Geeks at the beginning of the episode. And for the other thing is, I think they wanted an opening that if you had never seen the show yet, because it was still building an audience, if you didn't see the first 2 episodes, you get an interesting sense of at least who these 3 kids are. Right away before the credits even go.
I was going to say, even though I hope it doesn't stay quite as episodic the whole season, I will say it does feel like you could pick this up and still get a sense of who these people are pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think that was done purposely.
Okay.
I think that was done purposefully because they knew that in a Saturday night time slot they weren't going to get a huge audience, and they needed it to be a word of mouth show for the first few weeks at least. So
I'll tell you what, my favorite bit about the drink was when he said, I want to see the money first.
Yeah,
he's
that's
like, I'm
pretty good.
going to get the money on, see how confident he is.
How about though? Here's my favorite part when they have him like close his eyes, put the headphones on, and then they start talking about like all the gross stuff and we got to make him puke, and he literally is just like, I can hear everything you guys are saying.
Just don't listen. And they start humming.
Pretty great, right?
Great stuff.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we can talk about in this episode?
I got everything else that I wanted to. So if you got
okay. I'm trying to think. We talked about the opening scene in the car too with Kim Kelly.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, let me think. We didn't really see a lot of school stuff except for the teacher. Yeah. And the teacher with the
English teacher.
The English teacher. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely wanted to get your reaction to him reading the book at the end of the episode. I think that was important.
Yeah, I mean, I had them all.
I think that's it. I think we covered the episode. I think we did minute by minute here. It's another 40-minute podcast about a 42-minute show.
I knew this was going to have a lot, though. I knew it.
I went into this, folks, saying to Joe,
I
was like, we don't. Every episode doesn't have to be as long as the actual episode. We can have a couple of short ones here or there. And you're like, I don't know. We'll see. Sure enough, there was enough to talk about. And the music, again, was great. The one song that they're singing along in the car to, I don't even know. I had to look it up, and it was a kind of a minor rock radio hit back in 1980.
That one
so
song
it would have been
like,
played on the radio, and they would have known it. I find myself pretty well versed in music, certainly 80s music, but obviously there's this is rock from the 70s that was held over. But
it sounded like heavy punk to me, kind of.
It was
that one song.
Yeah, it was. It was a classic rock song.
Yeah.
But
didn't know.
But I had to look it up,
yeah.
And I was like, well, that's perfect placement because these kids would know this song for sure.
This year, right?
When it came out. So another good one there. All right, well, we've talked your ears off. So join us for the next one. Kim Kelly is my friend.
Where I start to like her.
Where you maybe start to like her.
Okay.
I don't know.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't really
She's
know.
one of my favorite characters because I think she's very realistic.
That's true.
I mean, we had some bullies in school that were girl bullies, so they weren't like physical bullies, but they were verbal. They were verbal.
That counts.
You knew it. You knew they didn't like you. So yeah, we'll get to some interesting stuff with her. All right, I have one one tidbit.
Okay, I'm ready.
It's a Kim Kelly tidbit though, so I was going to save it for next week. But
okay. Preview.
But a preview. The reason that she is not part of the main cast, even though she's in pretty much every episode, she was still under contract at that time. Don't know if it was to Dawson's Creek or not. I'm going to look it up and I'll have it for you next week. But in the commentary, they were saying how Kim Kelly couldn't, Busy Phillips, couldn't be in the opening theme when they're doing the pictures. And the actor that plays Sam on the commentary was like, well, when you think about it, she probably would skip out on picture day anyway, so it kind of makes sense. And then Paul Feig was like, yeah,
that works.
Just kind of worked out, but she was actually under contract, so she couldn't be a series regular, even though we had her in just about every episode.
Okay.
So, more on that next week, I guess, as she's the focal point of the title.
I'm interested.
So that will be next week. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Please let us know how you feel about these Freaks and Geeks episodes. Joe, I would say, is a fan. Oh, we didn't grade it.
No,
gosh darn it, we didn't grade it. Okay.
It's tough, though.
It's actually, this is a little higher than I thought it was going into it. Because after speaking to you and now knowing what Crime and Punishment
I had to tell him.
You had to tell him.
He's going to be like, this is okay.
I was originally,
like
to be honest, I was on the B+. I was on a B+. But
it's pretty lot going on.
There's a lot going on. You've brought up, I've seen this episode now, who knows, 8, 9, 10 times. And there's a couple of things you brought up that were news to me. Certainly the Crime and Punishment parallel specifically to that book I didn't know.
I knew I had to bring that up.
So I don't know. I mean, I got to raise it to at least an A-. What do you think? Is this an A for you?
No, it's an A for me.
Is it an A for you?
Because I think the other two, I honestly think were slightly more fun for me to watch because they were just so much more fun, which that's the thing I love the most about the show.
Yeah.
So this one wasn't as fun to me or as dramatic because the pilot, I think, handled the drama a little better.
Right.
But this one has so much complicated stuff
going on.
This
one is very dense and more dense than
the other
even
two
thought.
Like this one's so I'm like, I can't say it's masterful. It's just not quite as fun or as dramatically quite as well handled, but it's just
I'll A it.
There's so much cleverness.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about the Crime and Punishment parallel specifically.
I was like, I had to bring that up because
I think that's interesting. You brought up a couple other good points that I didn't really think about.
Cool.
Which is the point. Because you always have great insight.
Why I'm here.
This is why I wanted to introduce you to the show.
Yeah,
because look, once you see something so many times, like I have with these episodes, there's not a lot that I see that's new in them. I laugh at the same kind of parts and everything, but you bring a fresh perspective, which I love.
Well, that's the best part.
Wow, this is a very dense episode.
It's like, and I'll be honest, I don't know if I'd say I like the other two more, like for entertainment value and performances, I guess, on the slight difference. But this is probably the one that has made me a fan of, like, maybe this is like one of the great shows.
And acting wise, I think this is John Francis Daly's best episode yet.
He was so good in it.
Especially in the scene where she comes to his room. That's just
that expression.
All right, I'll give it an A. I mean, listen, I won't be talked down for Freaks and Geeks grades, but I can be talked up. I mean, that's...
We'll see. Maybe I'll hate one. Get that classic F in there. The lost episode.
If you give anything lower than
one, whenever that happens.
The Ben Stiller ones are definitely not the best.
Oh, no. Okay.
All right. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.